Hey guys, welcome to video 3. Tonight I'm going to be installing some parts. These are the companies that tonight's fun is from. And what I'm going to be installing is an ATS straight intake manifold, ATS fuel rail, a Ross Machine Racing 75mm throttle body, some injector dynamic injectors, a huxraceing alternator bracket, and a couple other little parts. The fuel hose and the fuel pressure regulator I'm not going to be doing tonight because after talking with Aaron at ATS, I'm going to change my fuel setup a little bit. But my main goal tonight is to get this stuff mocked up so that I can make sure that there's going to be no interference with anything when I go to drop it in the car. So let's go over what is going on. So first I'm going to be installing the intake. Aaron was nice enough to separate out all the hardware for me since I bought a bunch of stuff from him at one time. I'm missing one intake manifold gasket. Prime is actually sending me that right now. Since I'm going to be using a phenolic spacer, you need 2 of them. And I just wanted to, like I said, kind of mock this up since this is going to have to come off the car anyway. I just wanted to make sure everything was going to fit good and not be an issue. So it looks like these I'm going to have to flip around so those notches are on the inside for clearance on the injector seats, like that. Yep. Alright, so we'll get that there. I'm just going to go kind of quick tonight because I want to see how this is all going to look, to be honest. Pretty excited. So I already see possibly the first snag is that I might have to pull the stock studs out and stick longer studs in, so we might have to open up that package and see what he gives us for hardware. This will teach me for trying to rush and not open that one. I opened the fuel rail one to look at it. So let's see what he gives us now that that's out of the way. So I'm just going to put you guys down. I'm using my cell phone again tonight because I have just enough light for the camera not to want to focus when I use my DSLR down here. So I figure I'll just use my cell phone again. So let's see. Nope, just bolts and all the fittings for hooking up all the vacuum lines and everything else. So there's no new studs in here. So we should be good to go. I'm actually not going to use the stainless ones. I'm going to use some different parts that I have. Alright, so that is good. There we go. Alright. I guess once I crank those down, they'll be fine. Then, let's see here. So, I have to apologize to TCS because in all the stuff I've bought from them, I have managed to not yet get a TCS sticker. So I can't properly display their sticker with when I'm installing their parts. So I will remedy that immediately this week now that I've realized that. I did get one of their shirts. Sorry for blocking you here. I'm just trying to cut these open so I can measure against them. There we go. So I did buy one of their shirts from them. So if I don't have a sticker, I'll at least try and wear their shirt. Let's see here. Boom, done. So we'll grab a couple of these. Yeah. These kind of seem long. Those seem really long compared to these. They are really long compared to those. That's why I don't listen to myself very often. Alright, that's the beauty of having at your disposal a good selection of bolts. Alright. Mainly, I just want to see how this is going to look on here. I mean, I'm 100% confident that all of this stuff is going to fit with no issue. After installing ATS's turbo kit, I am pretty confident that their parts are the tits for when it comes to fitment. I mean, watching their latest post on YouTube about the Ferraris and everything, and just seeing that they had all the motors on the stands for mock-up and everything else, I'm pretty confident that these are all going to fit with no issue. The only thing I don't know is if I need these little stupid top hats for when I install the fuel rails. The fuel rail, and I have two of them. The third one was stuck in the fuel rail that I sold back to ATS, ironically, as a core for them to do a ROM tuned ECU and turbo package for someone. So we'll see. Now I'm just going to run these down finger tight and then just give them a tiny bit of snug just so that they're all seated in place. 14. So, oh, these actually, unless I grabbed the wrong end, those are 13s. There we go. That's very odd. I would have expected those to be 14s. And that one's a different size. What the heck is going on here? 12s. 12s, I say. 12s. So that one is a different size. Alright, so I'm just going to go around here real quick and do these all just a quick snug up so I can make sure that they're kind of just sitting where they need to. Obviously, because I'm missing the one intake manifold gasket, I can't crush these anyway yet. And also, I got to take this manifold off to get it in the car. So, that definitely increases the size of the motor a fair amount. So, usually the firewall crosses, I think, right about here on the ones I was looking at Bear Mountain. It might be farther back, but I thought you could just see the end of the surge tank in the trunk. But I like this angle that they're at. It is straight into the head, which is one of the main reasons why I swapped over to this, was that it didn't have any kind of wonky transition or anything else like that. And what's nice is after they welded it all together, they went back in and recontoured all the runners and everything else, so there would be no rough spots for the flow or anything else. So next, I think just to plug this up, I'm going to stick the RMR throttle body on there. And I might have to, I'm going to turn the motor a little bit. That should be good. Let's see if I can stand you guys up right over here. There we go. That works. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, so now the guess is I'm going to be coming this way with the throttle cable. Because on this, for the trunk mount, you run the throttle cable underneath the motor, or see, this is where it gets tricky, because I'm going to try and run the throttle cable down this way from the engine bay. So I'm going to flip this over. I think I'm going to have to flip this over. Now, obviously, because I have to put this on when it's in the car, that last little bit of figuring it out won't be as hard. And we're going to put it this way. There's that one. Now I'm just going to get it started, because you got to do all 4 of them at the same time. And it can be a little bit tricky because these have oval spots. And you have to have them lined up exactly, otherwise they want to kick on an angle and not go in straight. And the last thing I want to do is pull the threads out of the intake manifold, since these are stainless steel bolts on aluminum. It'll always be the more expensive part that fails. There we go. Now this is nice because it uses an O-ring to seal versus a gasket. So unless you're cranking this thing in and leaving it tightened down for long periods of time, you can get some install and removal and not have the O-ring go flat. But even if it does, when I bought it, I got a couple extra O-rings, so I can always swap them out if I need to, since I planned on having this apart a couple times, just getting everything set up, adjusted, and everything else. Now, I had a different intake manifold originally. I was running this with a Racer X center feed, and as soon as I put this throttle body on, I noticed a big difference, and I noticed a change in how the engine sounded just off the larger throttle body. So, eager to see how this sounds. So, that would be that way. So I might have to make a different bracket that's facing that way to run it how I want. But I love that throttle body. Alright, so for the fuel rail, let me pick you guys up. There's a couple little things. And what I like, one of the other things I liked about this intake manifold is it puts all the ports along the bottom, so you don't see any of the sensors or anything sticking out of the top of it like you did with the Racer X. They were all mounted on the side over here, and I mean it came up like this, and then all the sensors were right on the side, so it was kind of really clustered up right there. So I kind of like this a lot better. It's a lot cleaner, and I like the dyno proven performance of them. So for the fuel rail setup, here's what's included. They give you the 2 stanchions that actually support the fuel rail, the mounting brackets that these will go on the fuel rail like that, and then the stanchions hold them up. And then these are the collars for the injectors themselves. Now I'm going with Injector Dynamic 1300s. So a nice decent size injector for the size boost that I'm going to run. And of course I dropped that instantly. Oh, wondering if these might be easier to put the O-rings in first and then the collars. Yeah, that actually worked out pretty good doing it that way. Let's do them like that. Two. Now, there we go. Wow, there we go. So now we'll put the injectors in. I'm going to get the injector seated in the rail, and then I will put the cups on, and then I'll put that in and get the plates mounted up and everything else. And then we'll see how this all mates up together. Now, one thing that I recommend doing is keep a little bit of oil and get these O-rings a little bit wet. When you're putting them in dry, you run the risk of pinching one, or getting them so that they don't seat fully. And then sometimes you have to wiggle them in, sometimes they go nice. These ones are going to fight me a little bit because they're kind of tight. You just want to make sure that you're not pinching the O-ring when you push them in. There you go. Alright, so I paused the video real quick. I got these bolted on. Put a tiny drop of blue Loctite on the bolts just because they're underneath. Took a closer look at these. They're actually pretty nice. They actually have locating stanchions so that you can get those on. And then the rail is pretty much set to install, so that's good to go. Now, the one thing I'll say is, with injector dynamic injectors, there's a lot of different top hat heights and things like that. I ordered my injectors through ATS simply because I did not want to have an issue where the injectors were going to be the wrong size for the top hats, or from the top hats to the rail, from the spacers to the rail, or anything. So I called up ATS and basically told Aaron, this is what I want, and make it happen. And they did all the math and figuring and everything else and got me set up with exactly what I'll need. So I was just trying to press these on real quick while I was talking, and they're kind of tight, so I need to put some oil on the bottom O-ring and just get these pressed on. So I'm just gonna pause the video and do that real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I got those pressed on, and I just have the stanchions and the bolts balanced. So I'm gonna tip this. And exactly what I didn't want to happen just happened. So let me recover that stanchion. So this is the fun part, where you get to try and make everything line up all in one shot. So we're gonna kind of cheat, make sure all the O-rings are in place, and just tip that up. And I'm gonna have to put you guys down for 1 second while I grab an Allen key and just get these bolts started. Okay, so I got these bolts started, and one thing I noticed is the injectors are right up against the head. So I'm actually going to turn these so that they're like that. So what I'm going to do is just loosen these a little tiny bit so it relaxes some of the compression on them. And then I'm just going to turn them 90 degrees. Hopefully they'll clear. Yes. We might go the other way with that one. This is always the fun part, is figuring out how you want to... Well, that one can't go that way, so we're going to have to go this way. Like that. Then this one will go in, like so. And this one will go in Maybe this one will go out. Yeah, like that. Alright. So we have out, in, out. I guess I could. No, because then the post will be in the way. I'm worried that that post might be in the way of that one. That's just that. If it's in the way, we can always move it again. So let's go ahead and clamp that down and see how these want to sit. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do a test run to see how this was all going to fit together before I got it back in the car, because originally I was ready to just drop the engine in the car and start assembling everything in there versus doing it on the engine stand. There we go. So there's that. So the injectors are now in, stanchions are in, the O-rings have to be seated, otherwise those are all tight. So those are good to go. So now, originally, when I was talking with Aaron, I got this wild hair up my ass that what I was going to do is hang the fuel pressure regulator off right here and then have the return come off of that and go back. And I really wasn't super happy with that idea, simply for the fact that I didn't like that how much stress that would have put on the fuel rail on that end fitting. So I'm back to my original idea of, hopefully they'll clear. Let's